Welcome back. In his latest bid to reshape global trade in favor of U.S. businesses, U.S. President Donald Trump has signed a sweeping executive order imposing higher tariffs on several nations and the 27-member European Union, significantly escalating his administration's global trade offensive. The order is set to take effect from the 7th of August, 7 days after its issuance, with rates going up to 41%. India has been slapped with a 25% reciprocal tariff, adjusted one of the higher rates among key U.S. trading partners. The White House justified the move by citing India's obnoxious non-monetary trade barriers, persistent trade imbalances, and strong energy and defense ties with Russia. This higher rate threat from Trump also included an unspecified penalty for India's purchases of Russian oil against the backdrop of the war in Ukraine. Well, in a post on Truth Social, Trump said that India's tariffs were amongst the highest in the world. Well, viewers, the US's total goods trade with India stood at an estimated $130 billion in 2024. India's exports to the US totaled $87.4 billion in 2024, a 4.5% increase from 2023. India's trade surplus with the US, which is its largest export market, stood at 1.2% of the GDP in 2024. Notably, India is the largest exporter of non-patented drugs to the US at an approximate value of $8 billion per year. US accounts for nearly one-third of India's pharma exports, around $9 billion in 2024. Meanwhile, the US has also decided to impose a 20% tariff on Taiwan, 19% each on Cambodia and Thailand, a 30% tariff on South Africa, and a 15% tariff on Turkey. The Trump administration has also imposed a 15% tariff on Israel and South Korea, along with a 39% tariff on Switzerland, which has triggered a fall in the Swiss franc against the US dollar. Canada's tariffs have also been raised to 35% from 25% earlier. On the other hand, Pakistan, which announced a deal with the US on Thursday, has received a 19% tariff rate, while Bangladesh's rates, which earlier stood at 35%, have been brought down to 20%. Pakistan was earlier hit with 29% reciprocal tariff in April. We'll talk about this and what does this mean for India with our guest. Joining us on the platform is Ambassador Veena Sikri, former diplomat, Dr. Ajay Dua, former Commerce Secretary, senior economist, with us on the program as well. Dr. Sharad Kohli, senior economist, joins us on the program as well. Dr. Kohli, I'll begin with you. What does this 25% tariff mean for India? What does it mean? Let's forget about the diplomacy. Let's forget about the relationship. Let's talk about brass tacks. When it comes to the two nations having a trade deficit as well, what does this mean for India? And are the Americans making a mistake, a grave mistake, by not realizing that India is on a quest, Dr. Kohli, to be Atmanirbhar? Perhaps this is an opportunity for us to look outside, or perhaps, should I rephrase, look within and not depend on America, even for defense procurements. Dr. Kohli.
Good evening, Vineet. Good evening to Ambassador Sikri. Good evening to the Newsx viewers. When you were speaking out in your opening statement, I was remembering a game of roulette. You just move the needle, somebody gets number 15, somebody gets number 19, somebody gets 25, somebody gets 35, somebody gets 39, and of course you're looking for the winner there. It also reminds me of a school result where, as if the students have scored these marks and you're scrambling to look at the signboard where your name appears. What is this going on? I just fail to understand. You asked me whether President Trump is right. Will they regret? Yes, he's going to regret. He's letting himself down. He's letting America down. As far as India is concerned, we are not bothered. Our markets are reacting a little bit. It's a short-term, knee-jerk kind of a reaction. We'll settle down. America is not the end of the world. Vineet, we've got the whole world to do business with. We've just had a deal with the UK. We've done a deal with Australia. We've done a deal with UAE. We are pursuing a deal with EU, with ASEAN countries. But who's going to be the loser at the end of it? And for God's sake, through your show, I would like, whosoever is watching us at this point of time, I would like to say, even if they are exporters of leather, footwear, textiles, electronics, gems and jewelry, pharmaceuticals, the list goes on. If you're watching and you are into business with the US, please do not get worried for two reasons. One, the world is the market for us. America is, as I said, not the end of the world, number one. Number two, President Trump will realize sooner than later that he's in a self-destructive mode. Mr. Donald Trump, is trying to inflict America with inflation. And you know how this stands vindicated, Vineet? It's not me as an economist saying. His own Fed chairperson, Jerome Powell, couple of days ago, there is a FOMC, the Fed, committee, which decides, like we have RBI Monetary Policy Committee. Similarly, in America, we call it FOMC, Form C as we call it. There are 11 members of Form C, and 9 members out of 11 members voted against a decision to not to cut down the rates in America. And when does this happen? To understand in easy economics, this happens when the fear of inflation is hovering over you. When you fear that inflation is going to go up. So all because of this tariff rhetoric which is happening around the world. I think he's making a joke of himself, calling India as a dead economy. I would call, now pardon me for this, I call America as a failed economy. And here's the reason why. Somebody may like to debate me. Here is the reason. That $36 trillion of
Dr.
debt.
Kohli, Dr. Kohli, are you saying that because you're a patriot, or do you have figures to substantiate that America is a failing economy?
No, I have figures. This is not a parliamentary debate. We are not sitting in the parliament where I have to counter Rahul Gandhi or Priyanka Gandhi.
I was just being sure. Go ahead, sir.
No, this is pure numbers. $36 trillion of debt. They are adding $1 trillion every 18 months. It's an over-leveraged economy. In Hindi, there is a word called, pardon me for using a Hindi word here, it's called khokhla. Khokhla means when you are empty from inside. The economy is empty from inside. They are living in a make-believe world. Oh, this is United States of America. We are the bosses of the world. They are trying to colonize. This is economic colonization. He's gone back 30 years, President Trump. He thinks everybody is going to come and touch President Trump's feet. Sir, please take my goods and don't impose tariff on me. As if, the student goes to the principal, sir, please don't fail me this year. I promise you I'm going to study hard and next year I'll come out with flying colors. What is this happening? Who does he think he is? He may be a superpower on record. But then the fact of the matter is, from an economic point of view, it's a khokhla economy. The per capita may look very high. America may be a tech boss, we have Metas and Googles and, Amazons and so on and so forth, but that's the only strength. And what I fail to understand, that this strength itself should have been a feeling of relaxation for President Trump. You have Coca-Colas and Pepsis and McDonald's, but isn't that enough? What do you want to do? You want to probably rule the world and dictate terms. And the biggest thing that he's forgetting, what you spoke in your opening statement, if there is a trade surplus, which India has, for example, with America or some other country has, this trade surplus has evolved after decades of think tank. There's been thinking, I make something nice, you make something nice, I make something cheaper in my country, my geography is better, my climate is better, so I can export this to you, you do better on that, I take that from you. That is how trade evolves. This gun on the head trade is, in my 3.5 decades of economic career, I have never seen gun on the head kind of a trade. How can you export and import by putting gun on somebody's head? After all, it's a consumer-driven factor. It's a factor driven by simple economics, which is called demand and supply. He wants to force things on people, and on top of that, he wants investment to come into America. Can the investment come in like this? What about your cost of production? You set up a factory. Well, $200,000 per acre is the average cost of land in America. $40 per hour is the cost of skilled labor in America. For God's sake, get those factories. I'm fine. Can you get those factories overnight? So what is he trying to do? American consumers, Vineet, are going to shed tears. You wait and see for 4 to 8 weeks. Dollar will fail. The economy is already in recession, by the way. A person who calls Indian economy as dead, little does he know that his own economy is technically in recession. They may be hiding numbers, but the fact is they are in recession at this point of time, Vineet.
All right. Ambassador Veena Sikri, in fact, Donald Trump had put out another post on Truth Social. If you allow me, ma'am, I'm going to read out to you. He said, so hard to believe that Prime Minister Modi still has not responded to my tweets, statements or tariff concerns. We gave India so much. Great deals, defense support, big crowds, and yet total silence. Not even a thank you. Don't forget, I'm the one who got India and Pakistan to declare a ceasefire. Nobody else could do that. Many people said I should have gotten the Nobel Peace Prize for it. India continues to benefit while American workers suffer. I've always liked Modi, but this kind of disrespect will not be forgotten. Bad for business, bad for friendship is what Donald Trump has just put out a few hours ago, ma'am. This sounds like some sort of a megalomaniac speaking. This is not how you deal with friends. It's just been over 48 hours since he put that out. It's going to take some time for India to respond to this. Is this something which India should be worried about, ma'am?
Well, I think let me deal with a bigger issue. I have seen this post that you have just read out, but I don't know. Some people are saying it could be fake. It could be somebody deliberately putting out tweets like that to further worsen the relations. But overall, let's look at the situation. I think that first of all, India's response, the government of India's response, has been very timely and very correct. India has said clearly that we are going to continue to follow our national interest, number one. And number two, India will never give up the interest of Indian farmers, Indian entrepreneurs, and Indian MSMEs, micro, small, and medium enterprises. So I think India's commitment to sticking to its stand.
All right, ma'am, first of all, just like to apologize that post that I just read out, it is fake is what I'm being told. So don't go by that, ma'am. But I'm sure this is how Donald Trump feels from inside.
Yeah, that's right. No, I did hear that was fake, so that's why I rather look at the bigger picture. So I did say that India's response has been very correct, and we have told Donald Trump we are willing to continue the negotiations, and we are continuing them. There's going to be a meeting later in August, but we will not give up our national interest. This is very, very important. I think the other issues with USA, the India-USA relationship seems to be continuing. For example, there is an IMEC meeting on the India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, for which they say that Ricky Gill from the National Security Council Secretariat of America from the White House will probably be coming. If that meeting goes through, that's fine. We know that 2 days ago, India and USA launched this very important NISAR satellite, jointly built by ISRO and NASA. So I think these issues are continuing. I agree with some aspects of what Dr. Sharad Kohli has said very realistically, that tariffs cannot be a long-term solution because they have introduced such an element of uncertainty in the global trade picture that it is bound to make countries very cautious. And I think India's response is dignified, calm, collected, and cautious. We are going to tell our exporters, look for further markets, because if you cannot depend on the US market, then you have to advise your exporters accordingly. Suppose suddenly tomorrow from 25 it's increased to 50%. It will create further havoc for India's exporters. So I think we have to, from the very beginning, look at the situation in a longer term perspective and see that
also, ma'am, if you put, ma'am, sorry to interject you, ma'am, ma'am, how do you look at this kind of a saber rattling on behalf of Donald Trump from a macro perspective? He's obviously threatening Russia at this point in time as well. He's threatening India for associating with Russia. What does this mean for global stability as well?
I think it's very dangerous, and I think that today, for example, you should read Prime Minister Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, his letter on this subject. And he's been very clear that we are going to focus on Canada's interests. And we are not going to be swayed by any demands. We have done our best to accommodate what President Trump wanted on the US-Canada border trade in fentanyl and so on. We've put in a lot of additional effort, but beyond a point, you cannot respond to threats like this. International trade cannot be conducted like this. It will lead to a collapse because a zigzag in the prices will be very unstable. And I think that one point is there that the impact of these higher prices will ultimately reach the American consumer. If Apple iPhones are going to be exported from India, the made in India Apple iPhones are going to go to the USA, where is the tariff going to be met? Is the American government going to face the tariff? Apple says it will cost them $1 billion. Then ultimately, will this be passed on to the American consumer? Is he prepared to pay higher prices? And if you want Apple iPhones to be made in America, is that going to happen in a day? So I think that all these issues are very, very relevant. There is currently a legal challenge within the USA to President Donald Trump's ability to put tariffs, because the legal challenge from 6 democratic states says that it is the Congress which has to decide on tariffs and taxes. And President Trump cannot use his emergency powers for this purpose. This whole situation is very volatile. It's very much up in the air still. And I think Indian government has done absolutely the right thing to take such a cautious and dignified response and not to get involved in any dispute. I mean, when you talk about India and Pakistan, our Prime Minister has spoken to President Trump on the 16th of June on this very issue. And he has explained point by point, step by step, how trade was never an issue in the India-Pakistan discussions with any other country, and that the ceasefire has taken place only at the request of the Pakistani DGMO. Any other conversations can take place, but that is not mediation. And India has never accepted mediation between India and Pakistan by any third country. We will not do so now. I think this is the strong national consensus on this position. I think there is no way in which any government in India, and Prime Minister Modi is very, very firm on this point, any government in India can accept any third-party mediation. And our Foreign Secretary even said that, look, I was in on that conversation. I know that trade was never a part of any discussion at all. And we were informed at some point that, Pakistan is going to react and so on. But this is not mediation. We have taken our own decision. It is India's attacks on the 7th of May and the 9th and 10th of May that have caused havoc in Pakistan, from which they still haven't recovered. Many of their air bases are still non-functional. We know that the command and control center has been completely destroyed.
Fair enough, ma'am.
And why should we? So I think that we have taken...
Let me quickly also get Dr. Kohli once again into this conversation. Dr. Kohli, there's an anomaly here that we also need to flash out to our viewers, that the current US economy is poised at 30 trillion, but the national debt, Dr. Kohli, which the Americans don't usually talk about, is somewhere around 36 trillion. How do you address this anomaly?
Well, I already said that we call this in economics, we call it as an over-leveraged economy. Your debt to GDP ratio is severely out. You are about 120% of your GDP as far as debt, which means the average American is down under debt. That's what it indicates if you spread it across on per capita basis. So I think the whole rhetoric being built is being built about the fact that America has got a trade deficit. For somebody has to explain to President Trump that trade deficit is no loss to the country. This is because your demand and supply is like that. It's as simple as that. And a word about Russia, putting us in the basket, putting us in the same cabin as Russia. That because Russia, both of you are dead economies. You drown together. Whatever words he used, we don't need to react to these kind of comments. I think a very mature. I agree with Ambassador Sikri that we don't need to react to these kind of remarks, which are so undiplomatic to read. When you read these remarks, Ambassador Sikri has spent her life in diplomacy. Have you ever seen these kind of undiplomatic words being used by a country which is respected across the world, by a country which is supposed to be the biggest economy in the world, by a country which is the oldest democracy in the world? You don't use these. These comments remind me of somebody. When mother is talking to children at home, "Ja mar ja jaake." That is the kind of term used. What kind of language is being used? And putting us in the basket of Russia. Well, I must tell you, and on record, that from January to July.
Dr. Kohli, don't forget. Okay, you've spoken about Russia, but don't forget the preferential treatment being meted out to our unfriendly neighbor Pakistan.
I'm coming to that. And I think I would want Ambassador Sikri to make special note of that, apart from the viewers, that from January to July, America has imported $2 billion of goods from Russia. And one of those items, the list is long, but one of those items is fertilizer. And this fertilizer is not available anywhere else, which is why they compromised on their ethics. That blacklisting and that Russia untouchability and so and so. Where did that all go? It went out of the window because it is convenience. When I need it, I'm fine. When you're importing oil and defense, you're fine. And then you rightly said, you purposely prick and tease India by saying at some point, Pakistan will become oil supplier to India. We are going to, just because his family has got, this crypto business or whatever is happening between, Asif Munir coming to White House and having biryani or whatever for lunch. And then the crypto business starts flourishing. What is this? Bangladesh as well. He's trying to prick the neighbors against India. And he's trying to show that, look, if India is frustrating us, I'm going to start supporting the neighbors. This is
Okay,
evident.
let me get Mr. Dua also into this conversation. Mr. Dua, Mr. Kohli is right. This is not the language that you use for any rational reason towards a country which perhaps is ruling your IT sector, which perhaps has every CEO of a company that matters of Indian origin, and the fact of the matter is that arm twisting is very, very different if you do it to Pakistan. You can't have this kind of an attitude with India. Mr. Dua?
Yes, thank you, sir. I apologize for being late. I had a rather short notice and I couldn't take the phone in my car. Certainly the attitude of the United States, led by its president, in the last 1 week in particular, I think leaves much to be kind of diplomatic, to say the least. The language hasn't been couched properly, nor have the contents been. So the president of the US might be peeved at certain actions of the Indian government, including the statements made in the parliament last week when the discussion on Operation Sindoor was taking place, first by the foreign minister and then the prime minister himself, denying that President Trump had a role at all in mediating, because I'm pointing out to this because the very next, within 24 hours of that, we found the reaction of the president had reversed. Somebody the previous week tells the media that we are very close to signing a deal with India, and a figure is also bandied around saying 15 to 20% might be a tariff, might be all right. And then suddenly changes tack and says all kinds of things what the two co-panelists have talked about, the poor economy, Russia, the alliance with Russia. So most of these are actually not even factually based. If you look at the defense dependence, SIPRI, the Swedish institute which monitors all the ammunition flows across the globe, has pointed out that between 2024, for 4 years, the Indian dependence upon Russia for its arms had halved from what it was between 2008 and 2012, from a 72% dependence to 36% dependence. So that over-dependence which is being alleged upon Russia is not there. And if anything, we bought many more arms from the United States during this period. And even now, we are considering, after President Trump received Mr. Modi in February in the White House, offer was made that GE engines for our Mk1 and Mk2 fighter aircrafts, that's a fifth generation aircraft, India might be buying from them. For our army, we are talking of Javelin, anti-missiles, anti-tank missiles buying from them. So constantly the process of buying from the US is not easy. A lot of these things go up to the Congress for approval because an exception is being made. These are high-tech items, etc., and listed in the kind of the items which require parliamentary approval, other than giving it to its NATO allies. So, having said that, I think the question, what should be bothering us with it, going forward. All that he's done, nobody can justify it, but then his way of working, nobody can ever predict.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
He has changed in 24 hours his stances on important matters, and on political issues, he's been linking the tariffs. We've seen what he's done in Brazil. That Bolsonaro was my ally, was my friend. If you take action against him, action is taken against the country. And the Chief Justice of Brazil saying he's blacklisted from coming to the United States. Similarly, we've seen action because Mark Carney, the new Prime Minister in Canada, talks about our supporting Palestine. That makes him eligible for a penalty of 35% tariff on items which are not covered by the customs, the union which they have between US, Mexico, and Canada. These kind of things, small little things, irk him, and he shows that if there is anybody weaponizing trade, I'm sorry, I have to point out, it's the President of the United States. Earlier we used to accuse only China, but this is nothing but global politics being linked to trade. And I do hope that, keeping this in mind, we will expedite our negotiations, the sixth round of which is due on the 21st and the 22nd in Delhi, that we will try and ensure that instead of a comprehensive deal, which we've been trying to seek, low-hanging fruits, two sides what they agree to, let's sign up those.
All right, fair enough. So we have some breaking news coming in now. The MEA has made a statement on US sanctions on Indian companies involved in trading with Iran, and Trump has said that India may purchase oil from Pakistan one day.
On the other question about proposed oil sale, etc., I would say that I have no comments to offer. On the sanctions, we have taken note of the sanctions and we are looking into it. On the other question about proposed oil sale, etc., I would say that I have no comments to offer in this particular matter. On the sanctions, we have taken note of the sanctions and we are looking into it. On the other question about proposed oil sale, etc.
Ambassador Sikri, obviously, there are sanctions also being threatened at this point in time. What is India supposed to do, in your opinion? We obviously have to be diplomatic when it comes to dealing with the Americans. There are some sane voices in the Trump administration as well. Mark Rubio, for one, has said that there could be a relook at that 25%, but India also needs to let up. How are you looking at these sane voices being slipped in the middle of all this narrative thrown out by Donald Trump?
Well, let me say that in the negotiations, whatever feedback I have from the negotiations, it is very clear that there's only one voice which is relevant, and that is that of President Trump. In fact, it is said that on at least 2 occasions in the recent few days, a draft has been taken by the USTR, the US Trade Representative, to President Trump saying this is good, let's approve it. It has not been approved. So there is only one voice prevailing in the USA today, and that is of President Trump. But let me say that this extreme volatility being introduced into global trade, linking it to purchase of oil. Now, NATO is threatening India, we put 500% tariff on you. America is saying, stop buying oil from Russia. We are committed to our strategic autonomy. We are not going to give up on it. Our multi-alignment, our making friends, our bilateral FTAs, I think that is what we should be focusing on now. The UK-India bilateral FTA has been very successful. I hope the one with the EU will conclude soon. And that is what we have to do to bring reality and sanity into our trade relations and certainty into our trade relations. The uncertainty of the US trade deal, we have to just lie low on that. We have to advise our exporters to diversify their markets. And we have to see, because we cannot, India will not accept, we have said so. We will follow our national interests. When America is buying, as Dr. Sharad Kohli has said, America has done $2 billion of trade with Russia in the first 6 months. And they think that India should not then buy oil. And, we have all, and then also have heard that in this India-USA trade deal, pharma is being exempt because pharma is going to hit the American medical services, and they're so dependent on Indian generic products and others. So they want to exempt pharma because it suits them. So I think that we have to try and bring sanity back into the global trading system, even into the bilateral trading system. We have done the right thing by seeking to conclude a bilateral trade agreement with the USA. We should go ahead with that full steam. I hope the August talks in the third week of August will reveal some closure, will bring some closure, will bring some finality of agreement on the various products. But I do not think that there's going to be any change either in our trade relations with Russia and other countries, or even in our ongoing projects with the USA itself. And I
All
think
right,
those
fair
are
enough.
going
Ma'am,
well.
we've run out of time. Appreciate everybody who joined us.